Did we ever think that we'd be giving up so much for Lent? Our normal lives, that normal work, family life, it's all on hold. Did we ever think we'd be celebrating Easter Sunday like this, in studies and back bedrooms, not in church? When has that ever happened to us before? Well, the 3 days of Easter always give us a lot to reflect on. On Friday, we remembered that Jesus died on the cross, and we can reflect on the state of the world and the dark side of the human condition. On Saturday, we wait. Many churches will begin an Easter vigil on Saturday evening, and some people will stay up all night and greet the new dawn. And then Sunday, we celebrate that Jesus is alive and that new life comes to us in the here and now. Much of the time, the world seems to live in a permanent state of Good Friday. That's where we see the world and human nature at its worst. We see that people can be wicked and selfish and cruel. Jesus was crucified through that unholy alliance of religious rivalry and political expediency. On Friday, we see that innocent people are crucified, exploited, downtrodden, treated unjustly. It's a world rich with inspirational material for the writer Stephen King, one of my favourite writers. He often plumbs the depths of human depravity. And The Green Mile, his novel, is a good read for Easter, or perhaps try the film with Tom Hanks. One quote from The Green Mile. "Why is it that whenever we have a Jesus Christ or a Gandhi, we kill them? The world can be brutal. Sometimes we're personally on the receiving end of that, and it's right and natural to be angry and to ask why. Why do people suffer when it's not their fault? And the church doesn't have easy answers for that. But we do believe that the man on the cross is God in the middle of it with us. Good Friday is a place we recognise. It's where cowardice and cruelty and wickedness and violence seem to win. But that's not the end of the story. Sometimes we live in Easter Saturday, and maybe that's where a lot of us feel a bit stuck at the moment. We're waiting with anxiety, perhaps with anguish. We can't move on. We can't see the bigger picture to it, just as the disciples of Jesus on that first Holy Saturday couldn't see a bigger picture. The women especially must have found that Saturday an agony. They were the closest to Jesus. They were at the foot of the cross when he died. And now they were restrained by the law of the Sabbath. They couldn't go and finish the arrangements for the burial. They were in their version of lockdown, just waiting till they could get out and do what they were supposed to do. An idea that was taught very early in Christian history was the idea of the harrowing of hell. Do you remember the line in the Apostles' Creed that Jesus descended into hell? Well, that comes from 1 Peter chapter 4, where it says Jesus went and preached to the spirits in prison. The early fathers taught that this was when Jesus went to the realm of the dead and kicked out the gates of hell, preaching the good news and releasing the people who died without hearing the gospel. Holy Saturday, when we think nothing's happening, Jesus is still working, destroying the powers of death and hell. You might know the words that were found written on the wall of a concentration camp. I believe in the sun, even when it is not shining. I believe in love, even when I cannot feel it. I believe in God, even when he is silent. Those times of waiting that seem without purpose do really have a purpose. It's then that we learn to walk by faith. We learn that we have to let go of our need for answers. And we can trust that this time will pass. Because Saturday is not the end of the story. It's Sunday, and we remember that Jesus lives. The Spirit that was in Jesus, the Spirit of love, of faith, of goodness, could not and cannot be killed. That Spirit will rise and rise again. Tyrannical governments will keep killing their dissidents, but dissidents will still come. Much as there is that in human nature which is selfish and cruel, there is also that which yearns for justice, for goodness and decency. And you can't keep that down. It will keep rising. That's where I believe salvation is. It's when we realize that to be human is about love and compassion, solidarity with the suffering, and the rejection of violence. When we can do all that, actually do it, not just believe it, we will know God. On Sunday, we realize that things will and must change. If the disciples hoped that having Jesus back again meant getting back to normal, the way things were before, they were disappointed. Things were not going to be the same again. There would be a new community, a church, with the focus about learning to be led by the Spirit, not following a man. So how are things going to change for us? At some point, hopefully not too far away, we're going to emerge from this lockdown. And then what? Get back to normal? What kind of normal do we want? What do we want to change? I'm going to show some news stories. I was practicing sharing the screen. Okay, here we go. You might have seen some of these news stories. Okay, let's go to... Did anyone see this one? Sales of board games and jigsaws have been soaring during lockdown. So what are people doing differently? They're spending more time with their families. They're doing a bit of family bonding. How about this one? People have noticed, with people not going to work in factories and so on, pollution is falling. It's different, and this is a bit from New Delhi. New Delhi's India Gate War Memorial on different dates, one in October last year, one April this year. And what a difference people are seeing. You might have seen this one, that the cloud of pollution that used to be over Wuhan and that part of China has been dissipating. Or this one, people getting a view of the Himalayas for the first time in decades because pollution has been dropping. Or how about this? Pandas have been getting romantic. They wanted some peace and quiet. Now, who would have guessed? Or this one. Suddenly we've realised who we value in society, who does the important jobs. The people who look after us, the dustmen, the cleaners, the people in supermarkets. In a few weeks' time, we're going to have some really interesting discussions, aren't we? Are there things we can do differently? Are there things we should do differently? How are our values being realigned and challenged? And let's ground those discussions in our faith, in our belief that Jesus died and is alive, and in our commitment to the values of God's kingdom: love, compassion, justice, solidarity with the suffering. Those values are often ignored or squeezed out, even ridiculed. But it's Sunday. Jesus is alive. Amen.